Hi, in this video I'm going to share with you three things you need to remember when you are purchasing your own property or when you already have your own property. The first thing is what is your mode of ownership? Is it sole ownership, or is it joint tenancy, or is it tenancy in common? So the first one, sole ownership, means you have that property under your own name. You're the only one who owns that place. So that usually means that perhaps it's very rare to have this in HDB. Usually this is for people who buy private condominiums on their own name, or you buy a HDB once you are 35 years old, that you can buy under the single scheme. So that is sole ownership. Number two, it is joint tenancy. Joint tenancy is usually the default mode of how couples buy their properties nowadays, where both spouses actually own the property together. Thirdly is tenancy in common. So that's another one that I will discuss about it later. It's usually quite rare in Singapore, not especially in HDB flats, but it is quite common in the mode of ownership, especially in investment properties, for private condominiums or even other types like landed property and all that. Joint tenancy. Why I say that it's important. This means of ownership is kind of not being well understood by some couples. Although this is very basic, but if I ask you what is the percentage ownership between two joint tenants, two joint owners, what is the percentage ownership? So some couples have answered that it's 50-50 ownership. Actually, it's not accurate. It's not the real meaning behind joint tenancy ownership. What it means is actually it is 100%. Both own 100% of the property. And in joint tenancy ownership, the law of survivorship applies. The husband passes away, or then the wife owns 100% of the property. If the wife passes away, then the husband owns 100% of the property, and that is in the portion where we call the means of ownership. This is very important, especially when you are married or you're going to get married. So it means that if your spouse passes away, you as a surviving owner owns 100% of the ownership. But that does not mean that only means that you own, and that doesn't mean that you don't have to pay for the property anymore, or you don't have any loan balance anymore. Which brings to the second thing that you need to remember, that if your property still has a loan balance, meaning to say that the property is still under mortgage, you're still owing the bank or still owing the HDB, that means that there should be an insurance that covers that loan balance. For example, if you apply for a flat, HDB officer will ask you to sign on a document called the HPS, the Home Protection Scheme. What is this home protection scheme? Some couples might mistake this as the fire insurance, which is actually so far from the truth. It's actually an insurance to cover the mortgage balance. For example, you have $100,000 or $200,000 loan balance. So if the husband passes away, then 100%, if I take the 100% coverage, then 100% of that loan balance will be paid off. And my wife does not have to, while she already owns the property, because due to the law of survivorship, she does not have to fulfill the loan balance, or she does not have to continue payments at all. So that's what it means by the HPS, or the Home Protection Scheme. However, for those of you who are on private property, then perhaps this is not so straightforward. There's no one perhaps guiding you, promote you to have this insurance for you to take it up. There's quite a few people who are owning private properties who do not have mortgage insurance, perhaps because they have their own life insurance, which is a huge amount that they can use to pay off their mortgage loans, if any, when they pass away. But it is always advisable to have a dedicated one for the purpose of your mortgage, so that you do not have to disturb your other estate. So this is the second type that you have to remember when you have your own property. Number three, mortgage allocation. So when we pay the payment allocation, just because usually nowadays people are paying for their properties, perhaps the husband pays 50%, the wife pays 50%. It does not mean that you own 50%. If you are paying 100% and your spouse is not paying anything at all, it does not mean that you own 100% of the property. It just means that you are partaking, you are actually contributing you're contributing more towards the mortgage than your spouse. But in terms of ownership, we go back to point one. It means that the property is under joint tenancy. It means that both own 100% of the property, even though one party is paying more than the other. So how much you have allocated, and this is in respect to death, yeah. How much you have allocated, how much you have paid towards that property, does not denote the amount or the share of your property that you own. So going towards shares, so percentage of shares that you own into a property is more on the type of ownership called tenancy in common. So this is usually among friends when they buy a private property or they buy a commercial property. They want to split it up 33% or 30%, 40%, 30%. So this is how different parties who are usually not married organize their property ownership, and this has got to do with the shares that they own on the property. So if one passes away, then let's say there's three friends, one is owning 40%, 30%, 30%. So if the 40% owner passes away, that means that the other 30% owner only owns 60% in total. This 40% owner passes away and it goes to his estate. If the balance of the 60% owner wants to buy it off, then that's a different issue altogether. Yeah, so that is tenancy in common, usually not so common amongst married couples. So I leave you with that. So three things. First is the means of ownership. These are three numbers that you need to remember. You have to get these numbers clear. So when you have a joint tenancy property, it means that you own the property jointly and you own 100% of the property jointly. Number two is that the insurance to the loan balance should be 100%. If, for example, just to go back to point two, you sign up for a loan balance, especially if you are buying a HDB flat, you sign up for HPS where the HPS covers 50% of the loan balance. It means that if the husband passes away, then the wife is still liable for 50% of the loan balance. So for example, the loan balance is $200,000, then the husband passes away, the wife would be still liable for $100,000 of the property, $100,000 of the loan balance. So it is also wise that you take up 100% coverage for this purpose. The premiums are usually premiums are paid using your ordinary account. However, for those who are self-employed, just so you know, that you may have to pay your premiums using your cash if you do not contribute towards your CPF. So this is very important. So because some of my clients who are from employee status, and then after that they move over to being self-employed, and their CPF OA is being depleted, and their HPS lapsed. So this is quite dangerous. If anything happens, then if you pass away as a husband, then your wife is still liable for the loan, even though she owns 100% of the property. So I hope all of you benefited from this. These are the three things, the three different numbers that you should have a clear idea of what they mean. Thank you. Bye-bye.